Well, hey, let's get this party started. Time for another Facebook Live event here on the Shower Door Professionals Group. As you know, we do this every Wednesday evening at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. And this week's guest is Bill Daubmann. Bill's going to be talking to us about his 30 years of experience in the industry and some of the things that he's learned and some of the things that he can warn us about, so we don't have to make the same mistakes. But Bill's done a bang up job out there, man. He's come through it smelling like a rose so far. So anyway, Bill, I'm just going to turn it over to you, man. Thanks for your willingness to take this on tonight.
Chris, thanks for having me. And I got to preference this whole thing. You say I do a bang up job, but I don't think there's any other person on here that hasn't done a bang up job in their own area. Now, I know last week we had a few young guys that are just getting started, and I was kind of hoping they'd be back today because a lot of the story that I kind of put together would be to help the young guys getting started. Right now, you know, everybody that I see on the screen except Tunes has probably been doing it quite a while. So this is probably going to be boring for them, and I don't want it to be boring. So I'm going to preference it by saying anytime during this, if you have a question, go ahead and ask the question. Now, Chris had asked, and the other thing I want to say is I'm far from a braggadocious person, so I don't want this to come across that way either. I want to give you my experience and things that we've had, and hopefully we can share other experiences with either something similar, something better that you've done that, you know, would fit right into this. But man, over the years, we've had a lot of things happen. So I'll start off by doing a really quick background so you know who I am and where I came from. I graduated high school in 1972. So right now I'm 66 years old. Graduated high school in 72. Played sports all my life. When I got out of high school, I went into a community college. I took electrical technology. Didn't know where that was going to take me. I got into the security alarm system. I was a head technician for a company in Springfield, Massachusetts, running wires, climbing in attics, doing all the stuff that apprentices do. And I grew myself to the lead technician there. And just like the shower door business, once you install enough, you become a good salesman. And the owner was smart enough to ask me to bring in some new sales. And we find the same thing in our shower door business. Our best salesmen are guys that have installed the doors, that know how they operate, can foresee obstacles, can see bad tile jobs before they get started. So a lot of the stuff that I've learned over the years between being in sports and working for an alarm company has carried into the glass industry. People ask, how did you get started, or why did you get started in the glass industry? And I'm going to tell you that I didn't start in the glass industry. I actually started in the closet organizing industry. I was a closet maid dealer. Now, many guys on this group do more things than just shower doors. They do mirrors, they do closet shelving, they may do the bathroom accessories like the towel bars, toilet paper holders, medicine cabinets. That's what we were to the builders in Western Massachusetts and Northern Connecticut. We put numbers on the house. You know, it's all those things that the builder doesn't want to do. Normally the homeowners go to Home Depot or Lowe's and they buy a bag of stuff and they give it to the builder and put it on the countertop and say, hey, could you install all this for me? That's the last thing the guy wants to do. So we became what they call a specialty contractor. The beauty of what we did there, though, is I learned a good system because I didn't want to do all those installations. I was hiring people. So I had to figure out a system where we could document where the people wanted their toilet bar or toilet paper holder put, their towel bar put, specific locations, especially if they had walls that were wallpapered. We weren't drilling holes 3 times in something like that. So that happened. But the reason I got out of alarm systems and got into working for ourselves in Closet Made is because, and I don't know how many of you know it, my son Keith, he came down with cancer at about 11 years old. And I was also refereeing professional hockey, traveling the Northeast part of the United States. And it was very difficult for my wife, Donna, to take care of my youngest son, Doug, while I was traveling. So I had to figure out a way that we could work together. And I think we all started that way. The wife is in the business. She was doing payroll and accounting. So we started doing the closet-made shelving. And it probably 3 years into the shelving, builders came to us and said, you know, we really like your service. We like how your demeanor, your work ethic. We really need someone to do shower doors. And they couldn't get their plumbers to do it, couldn't get their tile guys to do it. There were very few glass guys in the Western Mass area. And I didn't know the first thing about shower doors, but I did have a good book of business with the closet shelving. And it was at that exact same time that Tom Whitaker was looking to expand his business. He was also in the closet shelving business prior to shower doors. And he wanted to start either franchising or licensing the name Mr. Shower Door. So a mutual friend connected me with Tom. We hit it off really well. And to this day, we're still very close friends. And Tom licensed us the name Mr. Shower Door. So we started doing shower doors. I'm going to say it was about 1988, 89. Now, Keith was diagnosed in 1987. I had to leave my job doing the security systems. We took care of him, made sure he was taken care of, became self-employed. But unfortunately, the insurance that we had for Keith didn't cover cancer. Some stupid insurance that the National Association of the Self-Employed offered. They call it catastrophic insurance. I thought cancer was a catastrophe, but obviously not in their definition. So basically, Donna and I, we had to reset our bank account to zero. I mean, we made sure every doctor and every hospital bill was paid. We were lucky we had our cars already paid off and we had an apartment. Donna was a hairdresser, so she had a job, and we just had to work harder to make ends meet. But we were glad that we paid everybody, and Keith is now 43 and doing very well. But that's how we really started getting the business for ourselves. We were kind of forced into it. And if you listen to Keith on any of his interviews, he'll say cancer was the best thing for our family. Made us work hard, made us earn everything. You know, there's a book out there by Damon John called The Power of Broke. And basically what he's saying is it's amazing what people can do when they have to scratch and fight and make ends meet. And it's good for everybody to experience at some point what it's like to have nothing and try and build your way back up. It's very humbling, but you also have to learn to be creative, more creative than the next guy. You got to make your name noticed, your company noticed, you noticed, and your work noticed. So we learned a very, very, very valuable lesson during that. So eventually more and more builders took to us, and we grew, and we became the #1 closet-made dealer in Western Massachusetts and Northern Connecticut. It's kind of funny when you look back at it, because when we started, there was no such thing as Lowe's and Home Depot. They weren't even invented yet. So we kind of didn't have to compete against them until, I guess it was early 90s when Home Depot started opening up in our area. And then it was a real battle on that closet-made shelving, because they were basically giving away the shelving and just outrageously raking the people over the hardware. So they used the shelving part as a loss leader, and people would go and then they would buy those little prepackaged pieces of hardware at an absolutely exorbitant price. And they were able to cost factor it all out, and it was good for them, and it killed us. But let me see. So we did that. I grew that business using firefighters. They were part-time workers for us, and they were paid piecemeal. And even when we started doing shower doors, I had set up using part-time installers. And now these installers, these firefighters, they had great schedules. I don't know if they have the schedules in the areas you're in, but a lot of them, they work 24 hours straight shifts. So they're on for 2 days, off 2 days, on 2 days, and then they're off 4 days. And they had rotating schedules, A, B, C, and D. So I made sure I got 2 firefighters from group A, 2 from B, 2 from D, and I just kept rotating them. And they were out doing the closet shelving and shower doors out of the same truck. So that worked out really, really well. until the point where I sold the business in 2003 and we moved to Florida. But the person that I sold the shower door business is still operating. It was Mr. Shower Door at the time. And then in 2010, Tom Whitaker decided that he didn't want to license anybody anymore. He had 7 of us around the country. And his attorney had told him that, you may call it a license agreement, but if it looks, feels, and smells like a franchise, government's going to consider you a franchise. And the fact that the Daubmanns were the only ones paying him the royalty and he was chasing the other ones, he figured it was better to shut it down and get out of trouble before the government came running after him. So we had to change our name. But until that point, the guy that we sold the business to in Massachusetts had it sell, he is now Oasis Shower Doors. So if you have anybody on here that's from New England, they'll be familiar with Tom Daly. He does a great job up in Springfield, and he's expanded out into the Boston area, doing a lot of union work for high rises, hotels. So that's become a really big business there. The other Mr. Shower Door locations were in Newark, Delaware, Lake of the Ozarks, in Missouri, and myself. Oh, and there was Ohio. You guys may know Matt Klosky, who works for Guardian Glass. He's one of their salesmen, but he was one of the Mr. Shower Doors in Ohio. I think he had Centerville, which is somewhere between Columbus and Dayton area. Let me see. Some of the other things I learned in New England, it's much different than Florida, is I was running into a lot of the fiberglass units there. So we had units like Lasco and Acre and Kohler making either acrylic or fiberglass tubs or shower stalls and shower surrounds. And trying to do heavy glass frameless on those units didn't work out really well, unless you were doing sliding doors. That could hold the weight. And when we very first started the business, I was like everybody else. I was doing wall mount hinges and running into the problems, especially in New England, during the change of seasons and the hot and the cold temperatures. The walls were expanding. So if we left a good gap between a door and a panel, as soon as the summer came around and the walls started swelling, then the glass was hitting glass. So then we either had to go out and make adjustments, or take the glass panel out and run it back on the polisher again and take a little bit off to give a bigger thing, or replace the panel and put an H gasket in there and let the door swing out only. So then as we were getting more and more callbacks for these wall mount hinges, we decided to go to pivot hinges. Both Tom and I found a guy making pivot hinges in Geneva, Switzerland. This is back in I'd say about 1989, 1990. His name was Al Darish. He's no longer in business, but he made a phenomenal pivot hinge, absolutely phenomenal. About that time, Tony at CHMI, if you guys know, CHMI is Custom Hardware Manufacturing out of Keokuk, Iowa. Tony started coming out with his line of hinges, and we swapped over from the guy in Switzerland and started buying Tony's Pivot 1 hinges and the Pivot 1As. Those things have now morphed over the years. He's sold, well, Tony fell on hard times. His business got taken over by K.L. Megla. I don't know if any of you know Peter, the German guy that bought out that hinge and a lot of Tony's hardware. And now K.L. Megla is no longer in business. The guy that ran Tony's shop, Randy, opened up in China and was making those hinges for K.L. Megla. I don't know where Randy ended up. I heard that he was with Dreamline, but I'm not sure of that.
You've outlasted them all.
Yeah, so far so good, right? I took all these notes because there's so many things to talk about. But the pivots were a big deal. So I had 2 of the Mr. Shower Door locations. I was his first licensee in Springfield, and then we bought a second one, which was Hartford, Connecticut, which is about 30 miles south of Springfield. But then one day, my wife and I were doing a measurement after one of those rainy ice storms in New England with a little light covering of snow. Her feet went out from under her, landed on both wrists. Before she even got up, she said, "That's it, we're moving to Florida." What do you mean? We've got a business, we've got thriving business, we've got a beautiful home that we had just built. How do you plan on that? She says, "I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it." She brought a business broker in, signed a deal to sell the business. They sold the business. We were good for about 6 weeks. Donna and I were retired. We sold it to a guy named Art Jacobson, who eventually sold it to Tom Daly. And we moved to Florida. We bought a house and we ended up selling our house up there.
So now she did this.
Well, she told me she's gonna do it. And at that point, happy wife, happy life, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know how many years you're married, but I'm going on 46. So
yeah, I'm a little less than 20 myself. So you're way ahead of me on that.
Yeah, well, I'm an old man. Look at him catching up there too. So anyhow, we moved, but I tell her to this day it was the best move we ever made. I had no idea. I mean, really, when you look at Springfield, Massachusetts, it's not a thriving metropolitan area. And then we take it and move to Naples, Florida, which is like the mecca of money. You've got these pockets in the United States. Chris, you're sitting in a pocket, in the States. Naples is one of those anomalies that the economy could be terrible all over the world, but it's not in Naples. The people are above that threshold where anything that happens to them just doesn't affect them. And any of the downturns in the housing industry actually ended up good for us. People stayed in their home and they figured, well, if I'm going to be here and the housing's back, let's remodel. And kitchens and bathrooms are always the first two things that get done. So Naples was just an absolute home run. So when we moved to Florida and we sold the business up north, the deal was with the new owner, Keith had to stay behind for 6 months for the transition period. The guy that bought it kept Don and I there for a month. He got us a golf membership. He said, "You go golf, eat, do whatever you want on my membership." He says, "I need Keith here." So Keith stayed for 3 months, and Art said, "You know what? Thank you. Go ahead. You can go meet the rest of your family." So we started in Naples with just Donna, Doug, and myself in September of 2003. Keith came 3 months afterward, and the rest is history. We started with one location in Naples. Then we opened Fort Myers as location number 2. We've got up to about 8 employees in 2005. We went to Sarasota in 2007. Then we were up to 10 employees, and we just kept replicating it. Just around that time is when Tom Whitaker decided to pull the rug out from under us, so to speak. We were no longer Mr. Shower Door. We were very, very nervous. We had put thousands of dollars into marketing that name, getting that name out there. I thought I knew Tom well as a friend. We didn't, but always in the back of your mind, you got to make sure that nothing nefarious is happening, that he's not selling that location to somebody else. But we had a very good agreement. Tom gave us 18 months as a phase out period. So he still let people know that we're going to be changing our name. We stayed proactive on it. We ran advertisements that we were going to be changing our name. And with a letter that Tom wrote saying that there was no lawsuits, there was nothing nefarious, it was a decision that he made, and all of the license holders had to change their names. I respect Tom a lot for that. And I think we were good because we were ahead of the curve. We were afraid that our competitors were going to use it as their advantage, that these guys, why are these guys changing their name? Is there a lawsuit? Are they running from something? You never know what your competitors do out there. And that's going to be one of the topics we'll talk about is competitors, what they say about you, how you deal with it, how you always take the high road and it comes back to pay big dividends when people know that they're dealing with an upstanding company. That's a really big deal when you get into some of these markets. And I've had firsthand experience, and Chris, well, some of the experiences I've had in Florida. But you take the high road and it does pay off. So Keith stayed on, he came down. But when we moved to Florida, I guess it's interesting to know that we didn't know anybody. I had 0 contacts. I didn't have any contracts with any contractors. Didn't know anybody. We had to start from scratch. And this is where I was hoping a lot of the younger guys that were just starting their business, they could really learn a lot from the guerrilla marketing tactics that we used using very, very little dollars out of our pocket to market our name, our brand, everything that we could do. And there was so many good stories there. But if I fast forwarded to today, we've got 129 employees as of today, 9 showrooms throughout Florida, 6 affiliate stores throughout the United States in 4 different states. And I'll explain what affiliates are. And then in 2012, my son Doug did a little math exercise and saw how much glass we were buying from Coral at the time and made a calculation of what it would cost us to buy the machinery to make our own glass. If any of you guys have ever taken a business course, one of the things they teach is the business pyramid. You take a pyramid like this and you label the top of the pyramid price, down here is time, and over here is quality. And the saying is pick 2 because you can't have 3. And we felt that by getting into manufacturing, we could have that trifecta, that we could control the price because we were now the manufacturer. We could control the quality as we could set up our own quality control stations. And quite honestly, we could turn it around very quickly if we had to. Now, I emphasize have to, because if you run manufacturing, it's all about processes and getting the best yield out of your cuts. You optimize the glass. You know how many panels of glass you can get in to keep your scrap under 20% of a big panel, which is what the industry standard is. Right now, we've got it down to about 9%. So with some good optimization software, you can really get your yields down there pretty good. 2 things that matter into optimization is the quantity of orders that you're putting into that formula to optimize, and then the configurations of the glass and how you can use the panels. Some of the other things that I've learned over the years on the inside is on the manufacturing end is I learned from Dunkin' Donuts when I saw, because in New England, everybody goes to Dunkin' Donuts, but it was interesting when I was growing up, they were making donuts and that's all I knew was the circular donut. And it was later on that they came out with the donut holes. And I realized what it was is they were punching the middle out, and up until then they were throwing it out. That was waste. I'm going, wait a minute, what a brilliant idea. Just market your waste. So we started doing the same thing as marketing our waste. We do cutoffs and we just stand them and we polish them and then we make shelves and we sell them to the glass shops at a discounted rate. Also, every so often we'll have a cash and carry day where if people want to come in and buy glass for whatever hobby or project they want, they can just buy our scrap from us. The other thing that Donna has done is set up our water jet so we can cut Christmas ornaments for the holidays, give them out as gifts, give them to our elite clients. So if we have ABC home builders, we'll get their logo off the internet. They'll import the logo into the water jet and we'll cut pieces of glass, put a little hole in it, a ribbon on it, and send it to them for Christmas ornaments on their trees. And they absolutely love it. We've been doing that with scrap mirrors also. It really glistens really nice in the light. But we give them to our employees. If I have functions, like if I have a Chamber of Commerce function, a EDC function, whenever somebody comes to our shop for a tour, we have to give them a giveaway because they go home. We tell them the only thing we have to do is post it on social media. Just show somebody what you got when you took the glass tour. And I'll tell you that that grabs so many legs and it just expands out. So we learn from giving tours through our shops. We hold meetings there for interior decorators, designers, even the plumbing organizations. We'll bring in plumbers, even if they're competitors to each other, to show them what we have and what we can help them in their business. Many times we've got clients that have used us time and time again, and they'll ask us, hey, do you know a good plumber? Mine retired or mine's too busy to do this. So we keep a list with us of plumbers, electricians, tile guys. It's a whole list that we give out as added value to them, as long as they give added value back to us. So we've formed those networks, which are vitally important and cost you nothing at all. The other thing we've learned on social media is always promote other people. It's good to promote yourself, but it's really powerful when you promote other people. It tells people that this is the kind of company that's not all about themselves. They want to help a contractor. They want to help a flooring guy, a tile guy, a cabinet maker. It goes on and on and on. That comes back to you in spades. And I think we've even learned that you help the other glass guys in the area. Like I've got every local glass company on my phone, because if they need a hinge, if they need a piece of channeling, I keep so much in inventory, I don't mind helping them. I've already lost the job to them. They've already sold the job. If they're calling me for a part, I'm not competing anymore. Now I can be their friend, and then hopefully I'll be able to sell them glass from our D3 plant. But that was a really good learning lesson there about making friends instead of enemies. It's just not good in the industry to make enemies with anybody. Never mind, the glass industry is so small. It's just so small. I may be across the country from Chris right now, and one day I may move right next to him. It's good to be friends instead of enemies, right?
That would be nice.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Have a barbecue or something.
I could talk all day about advertising and marketing and things like that. The things that I found out on marketing is you make sure your truck is clean and well logoed, well marked. So people see your truck, they know how to get a hold of you. Whether you put the website on there, you put a QR code on it that people can get to your website. We've been creating QR codes that go to a landing page that actually has a video. I'll come out, introduce myself, and say, hey, thanks for shooting that QR code. Let me tell you about ourselves. Here's a tour of our factory, and we give it to them. If we're in a hiring bind, we have one on our trucks is always hiring with a QR code. It brings them right to their application page, gives them a video of other guys in the shop talking about the job, how we treat them as employees, how their pay is good, the benefits they have there. And then we show them some shots of finished work so that they know that this is a career that they can work in. We're very proud to say that our employees, we've got 3 employees that are more than 15 years with us. One of them just hit their 20th anniversary with us. He worked with us in Massachusetts and moved down into Florida to work with us here. So out of the 129 employees, we've got more than 60% with us over 7 years. So even though we do get the turnover at the lower end, the people that we feel are very important, we're looking at them as investments, and we want to keep them on board. We offer paid time off, very generous paid time off. We pay 50% of their medical benefits. We have a health insurance plan that's a very good one. We have a 401k for retirement that we match 50-50. So if they put $1 in, we put $1 in. There's a cap of 4% of whatever their salary is, but we'll match it. There hasn't been a year that, we have the option as an employer not to match it 1 of 3 years, but there hasn't been a year yet where we haven't matched it. We got a great working environment. Culture building is very good as you grow an organization. It starts at the top and it has to filter all the way through. I like to say that I like to show by example. I'm not an authoritative guy at all. We like to set expectations. We give you training. We give you tools to do your job and to be a success. We just ask that you're loyal, that you show up on time and you're dependable, because when we book appointments with customers, we expect you to be there. It makes everybody look bad if you don't show up to work and we have to reschedule somebody. We train. We will take a blank canvas, a guy that's never been in the glass business, first over somebody that has bad habits. It's very, very, very hard to get rid of habits. We want our brand to be a process, and we want everyone to follow that process. Now, maybe that's stubborn, but if people are happy with us here, they're going to be happy with us as we move from city to city to city. And I think that's very important. I don't want to open up a store in another city and have it done differently than we did it somewhere else. Now, we may not have the best way of doing things. I see a lot of good pictures on these Facebook posts that guys do things differently. There's nothing the matter with doing it differently. There's nothing the matter with that. We try and offer what the customer wants, and we give them the pros and we give them the cons and let them choose. If they're willing to pay for it, we'll do what they want as long as it's safe. And it's always as long as it's safe. And if it's not safe, we'll tell them we don't feel it's safe. We don't have the insurance to cover it. If it's not safe, we'd respectfully bow out of it. If they're really adamant about us putting up a panel with no channel, no clips, and no grooves in a stone, and they just want it to glue in place, ain't happening. I'm not going to lose my business over a potential $1,000 job or $800 job. It's not worth it. Other things that are important on your hiring is not only training them, but constantly evaluating, getting in the vehicle, going out, going to the job sites. Are they doing things right? Did they put their booties on? Did they introduce themselves to the customer before they even start the job? Then we have training. I mean, we have written tests for our guys. We test them on their fraction skills, their deductions, knowing how to read the takeoff sheets so that they know when they go to a job that what side the hinge is going to be on, which way the panel is going to be orientated, things of that nature. We constantly go through it with the salespeople, with layout and design. What is the strongest way of doing it? What is the ease of getting in and opening the door to turn on the shower? Is the water going to hit them? When you're done, swing the door into the shower if possible, or where are they going to put their towel bar so they can conveniently reach out and grab a warm towel? Is it going to drip on the floor? Is there a toilet in the way? Is there a chair railing? Is there a towel bar on an adjacent wall? On the in-swing, is there a bench? Is the shower head coming down from the ceiling come down so far when the door swings in? Is it going to hit the shower head? How is the valve situated? So these are things that you hire new guys, they have to learn all that. Where if you try and grow from within, most of the installers have already run into these situations. They've run into the situations with angled walls, and your door has got to sit in there and you can't swing the door in because the wall is in. So these are things that we like teaching installers and then growing them in the business into sales, as opposed to hiring outside sales guys. So the evaluation of that is very, very important. We don't tell the guys we're going to stop in on the job. We tell them we're going to stop in, but we don't tell them when. We want to make sure the truck is in good order. We found a lot of customers follow you out to your truck. Some of them are just nosy, but other ones want to see if your truck is neat and organized, because to them, if you keep your truck organized, you're going to do a good job in their house. We make sure that they sweep up after themselves, no metal chips if they were cutting metals. If they were caulking, make sure that the blanketing was on the floor. There's no caulking left behind, no razor blades left behind, no masking tape, et cetera, et cetera. We have them shoot pictures before they start, attach it to the company, to the customer information, shoot a picture when you're done. We've received way too many phone calls that you guys chipped this or chipped that or broke this tile, and the pictures are very clear that it was there before you ever started. We train them to look what's on the opposite side of the wall. If you're drilling granite or something with a hammer drill, is there a very expensive Monet hanging on the wall in the back? Or do they have a shelf there with grandma's ashes in a urinal? They're hanging up on the wall. Some people have collector glasses and the vibration of the glasses will fall off. We generally ask if they know where the plumbing is in the wall. Did they do it themselves? Lots of guys do their plumbing and I've seen it. They've run plumbing under the threshold piece. They've run it right up the side jamb, and you go in with your wall mounted screws, or we use what we call a pork chop for the top of the bracket, and we hit a water pipe. It's like, there's no reason in the world there's a water pipe should be there. It was a homeowner that did his own plumbing, didn't put any protection on it. So we always ask them if they know where their water shutoff is. Now, you don't want to scare them, but when an emergency, something like that hits, you really need to know where it is to turn it off quickly. So, after it sets in, they said, these guys know what they're talking about. They've done enough of them. We have backup phone numbers for any little things that might happen. You drill a porcelain tub and it cracks or it chips, and you got to get a guy in there to refinish it. We've got their phone number readily available. But we've also run into, again, electrical. Some guys have drilled in walls and the circuit breaker panels on the other side of it, and you're drilling into the back of the breaker box. So I want our guys to inspect the back of the wall before they drill. Some walls don't have proper support in there. Our guys carry sheetrock, they carry some spackle. Sometimes they have to open up a wall in a closet and add a stud because the builder didn't, or it was built to the point where frameless doors weren't even in existence back then and they didn't care about it. And people want to put some kind of support in there. We'll cut the sheetrock and we'll add a stud in there, spackle it up, and if they have paint, we'll even paint it. So these are things that we do, things that we've learned that we've needed to do over the years. Sometimes one of the other little tricks that we've learned is if you're drilling somebody's tile and it's one of those colored tiles or stone or red brick, we like to collect the powder from the drill bit and keep it aside, because if you have to patch the hole, you mix that up with caulking and put it right back there and it gives you a pretty good blend. So that's a good little trick on some of those colored caulks that you don't have. Use the tile itself and the colored pigmentation out of that tile, and it works really well. It doesn't work on a white tile with the red behind it, the clay, but it does work on a lot of the other decorative stones, especially limestone, travertine, things of that nature. That's a really good little trick to use. Stop me at any time, or if you have questions at any time. I've got a little list of things that, again, Chris asked me to go through stuff, and I don't want to bore you, so I'm going as fast as I can.
No, this is some great stuff. I mean, those last few tips that you just gave were awesome. And the trick with the tile where you collect up the dust and mix it with some caulk. What kind of caulk do you tend to use for that?
Oh, we just use our regular silicone caulk. We'll mix it in there and make a paste and put it right back in.
It's just regular clear silicone.
Yeah. Now at Lowe's and Home Depot, they sell the colored caulk. They have the biscuit and the bone and those typical colors which we keep in all the trucks. But some of those colors that that gray tile, something, I just take a dustpan, hold it under where you're drilling the hinges, and when you drill, collect that dust. You never know if you have to mix something up later.
That's awesome.
So I talked about training, evaluating, when you do your hire, train, then evaluate, test, and you give the guys a few times, but if it's not the right mix, cut your ties. Say, you know what, we tried, you tried, we see that you're struggling, it's not to the quality standards that we need for our customers. I think we should separate, and thanks for trying. But don't keep dead weight, because if it gets negative and they're not doing the job and they're not happy, it becomes a cancer through the rest of the group. That we just have to cut our ties. Now, inventory control. That was a major thing for me as I was starting. When I first started, I was only bringing in 6 of each hinges of each color, maybe a dozen lengths of different channeling to keep in stock, and then some sweeps. And as I grew, I was going through it so quickly. But the bigger problem that I had was my installers, in trying to do the right thing, they would help themselves to take a sweep or take caulking, but never tell me to reorder it. And I had to start locking it up, and for me to control it and put it out there for the job. So the first couple of years, it was chaos. Every morning they would come in and they would help themselves to get their glass and get this and get that. I remember jobs, it was a far distance away. The last name was Johnson. It's like, you think there might be more than one Johnson in this world? We happen to have 3 different Johnsons going on at the same time. And of course they grabbed the wrong one. So we had to go to sales order numbers and assign slots along the wall and tag every piece of glass with their name and the job number. Then it got to the point where you're doing multiple doors for the same customer in the same house. And they're going out to the job site with 10 panels of glass, and they're spending a lot of time trying to figure out which panel of glass goes to which shower. So we came up with a numbering system that works really well. And I'll tell you guys this, and use it if it's helpful to you, and if you don't, forget about it. But if you can envision a tic-tac-toe board with 9 squares, take it and just lay that same tic-tac-toe board flat. You're standing at the street looking at the front of the house. So you've got your front 3 segments. So if the bathroom was in the front middle, we would use a letter. So it's first floor, so it'd be 1. That tells them what floor it's on. And if it was in the front left of the house, it would be FL. So I had it called front, middle, back, left, center, right, going that way. So depending on what square you want to tell them where that bathroom is, because we've had way too many times where somebody just writes on the paperwork, master bathroom, and the installers go out there and the guest one is a beautiful bathroom and say, oh, this has got to be that, and they start drilling, it's the wrong bathroom. So we've eaten that a number of times. That's really important, the numbering system on that. So job orders, numbers for the customer name, and then room designations or bathroom designations for the particular bathroom. So if you were on the 4th floor, so it would be 4 middle, middle back, or 4 back middle. So that would be the back row in the middle of the house. So they always orientate themselves standing at the street, looking at the front door, and go from there. And we do that on every unit. Now, if it's a high rise and it has 29 floors, then it's when you get off the elevator looking at the front door, and then you orientate yourself from there.
Just from outside the front door, wherever you're at.
Yeah, standing at the street, looking at the house. That's your orientation, and it's always the same. So the inventory control was really important, so that I had to start locking up everything from caulking, drill bits, razor blades, blue tape. We use stick rulers for measurement as opposed to tape measures, so that you can get good, accurate inside measurements. People love it. They say, oh my God, I haven't seen a carpenter's rule like that in years. So, well, quite honestly, I've seen too many guys measure shower doors with those tape measures, and the end of it is all gnarled, and that could be a 16th or an 1/8 off. And they're just butting it up their order, trying to add the extra 2 inches for the body of the tape measure. But if you had 4 panels in line and they were off each of them off an 1/8, your glass isn't going to fit. So we went to the stick rulers, and that is a standard. So I was talking about locking up inventory, and the reason was I was never afraid of theft. It was not the reason. It was so that I knew I had better inventory control. So when the guys needed a case of razor blades, I had my own chart that I would make sure that I reordered the razor blades. So when the next guy needs them, we're not out. Too many times they were helping themselves to drill bits, and instead of taking 2, they would take 10, and it didn't leave any for everybody else. That was a really big deal, and I see it in glass shops all around here. That they don't do that with their inventory. So when I call inventory, that's basically supplies. That's not shower door inventory, but it's supplies. But it gets into sweeps, gaskets, double-sided tape, you name it. Those things that you burn through, even cases of paper towels. They have to fill out requisition orders. So we get them filled, and we use those requisition orders for reorder. Strategic planning is important. You always want to grow. As you grow a business, I find my position now is to make sure that when that tide rises, the whole boat rises and everybody rises with us. My biggest struggle now is to find additional benefit for people to grow within our company. So they start off as installers. They may start off as the shop guy that's cutting and wrapping metals, or picking hardware out of the inventory and going on and doing that, wrapping the job, putting it on the shelves, getting ready for installation, loading the carts for the guys, inspecting the glass. We apply our own coating to the glass, our Easy Care Shield. We do it ourselves, but the money that we make from that more than pays for that shop guy, more than pays for it. I make sure he cleans up for after everybody at the end of the day, dumps the barrels, no food left in the trucks or in the shop, because I see rodents coming in after the food, especially when they leave them in the shop. But I'm always trying to create opportunities for people to grow within the business. We're already at 9:20 and I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I want to leave a few minutes for guys. I'm sure some guys have questions for you, and
yeah,
so I just want to, make sure that you guys know that if you do, if you have got a question for Bill, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask it, because I'm sure he can fill up the rest of the time.
I just see one that came in from Edelmina. It says, "Hey Bill, Edel from Glass Pros in Riverview. Can you talk about how long you would inspect an installer to install on their own? And how did you come up with a training for a newbie?" Great question, because we've suffered by putting guys in the field too early, expecting them to do simple things that we hadn't trained them, and we found that they didn't even get the simple things right. We don't let them go on their own until they pass what we call level 2. Level 1 is 90 days as a helper, 90 days. He's with an installer side by side, everything from preparing the handle and the hinges on the door, or setting up the sliders, washing the glass, carrying the saws in, sweeping up, reading the paperwork to make sure that it's laid out properly and they have the right bathroom. After the 90 days, the supervisor goes out, we give them a test. We have our own in-house training facility in our warehouse. We have them do 3 or 4 units there. We check their caulking. I don't mind if they tape off the glass and caulk, as long as it comes out good. I don't mind spending the money for the tape. Once they get really good at it, then they can zip it without that. But to be able to go out their own as a lead, almost a year before they're a lead, unless they're only doing what we call level 1 work, which is a slider or a single door. That's it. Once you get into door and panel, we move them up a level. So that's how they get there. Now, so do experienced guys go through the 90-day level 1 so that they understand your process, or they skip to level 2? Robert, that is a great question, because we do get some guys coming over from other ones. We will give them the test in-house first to see what their capabilities are. And then we can make the decision that if they're already past the level 1 thing, they still need to learn our process. And what I do is I bonus them. I keep them on the level 1 so I don't ruin the pay scale for everybody coming into the company, because once they find out you ruin that pay scale, it ruins everything. But I'll give them a bonus to compensate them for the difference once I see that they have that. And that would be a signing bonus, as long as they pass that test. Anybody else there? God, Chris, there's so many good things you can talk about. One tip that I would have, if there's no other questions, I'll keep an eye on this chat. If it comes up, just, it'll light up for me. But when we started our business, I was talking about guerrilla marketing, and guys that don't have the budget to put out ads all the time. So right now, social media is great. You can post for free, but you got to get creative with the posts. Make yourself stand out from the crowd. Show nice pictures. Do selfie videos. We've even found that in our sales training. We'll go out to estimate a job for a customer. They haven't made it to the showroom yet. We'll go back to the showroom and we'll do a selfie video in our showroom. Say, I left your house today. I just want to show you, this is what we're talking about. And man, is that powerful. They love it. Absolutely love it. You get them engaged.
Speaking of that, I have to tell you, man, Keith is the master of this.
He is.
I mean, I'm so jealous of the way he just utilizes social media. I see him on LinkedIn all the time. That's primarily where I see him. I don't think I see him on Facebook at all.
That's the only thing he's on is LinkedIn.
Yeah, but I mean, he is just so clever and witty and like funny. Has just such a great personality.
Yeah, and
it comes across as just super genuine, and and that's the sort of thing you can't fake. So yeah, kudos, man. You guys are tearing it up in that way.
Yeah, I don't know if you realize that Andrew Herring reached out to Keith to actually be the spokesperson for the NGA to get him to the show. That's and the numbers and the early sign up, it was unbelievable. Like, the economy was good in 2019 before COVID hit. So people were going to the glass show, but he compared this year's sign up to 2019. They were up 436% on opening day for registration. I mean, that's huge. But Keith was hitting it every single day. And of course, he went directly to people in the glass industry. Okay, Robert Gomez says, Ellie Ben from Facebook asks, what type of software do you use to keep everything organized? Okay, so I want to know what are they talking about? So we've got affiliate stores that we do have a QuickBooks program to keep things organized, but on the main thing we use SAP. SAP is a very robust thing. We use that for our inventory control, purchasing. We use that for our customer pipeline, for opportunities and sales. We create a business partner and track it from there. So you're creating business partners for your customers and for your vendors. So that is what we use for there. Then within house, we have our own scheduling software. We started off using Outlook calendar for our appointments, which is good, but we outgrew that. We're running 14 trucks a day now with 3 to 4 appointments a day. They'll probably do 2 to 3 installs and a service call in an average day. And we're sending those trucks out. So we had to get to customized software for scheduling. So that's good. And that's integrated to our phone and mobile device as well. As you guys grow, the other thing I learned is I would always put tracking devices on your vehicles. You got to know where your vehicles are. You got to know how long they're at jobs and where else they go. This goes years ago. I'll tell you a quick story. I got a call from a builder of mine up in Massachusetts, and he just wanted to let me know that our truck was parked outside of an adult bar at Friday afternoon around 3 o'clock. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my God, you're parking it in front, and I'm assuming you're not going in for a soda or a water, and now you got to drive that truck back to the shop, and that's an absolute no-no. But you just never know. You expect certain things from your employees. They know what's right and wrong. That was an absolute wrong one. Says, do I provide uniforms and strict dress code? Yes, we provide all logoed shirts, but they're not a uniform shirt. I give guys different colors and different levels. My wife has a Cricut machine and she puts like stars on it. So if they're level 2, they'll get 2 stars, level 3. That way the guys that get up to level 5 shows off that they're level 5. And it's really good. We have a little star ceremony for the guys when they get raised up to the next level. All the salespeople have golf shirts like this, whether the name is scripted out or we use our logo. Depends what the shirt is like. And Donna does all that. We do provide that for all installers and salespeople. We recommend certain types of pants to wear, but we don't pay for that. Let's see, Greg asked, interested in what type of drill bits we use. You mentioned that each of your installers will get 2 drill bits, that per shower enclosure. All right, that's a great question. We were going to Lowe's and Home Depot and buying the Lifetime, let me see who they were made by. Can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head, but we were burning through them. We were getting a 5-pack of the spear point bits. They were not good for hammer drill or percussion, but they were good for drilling regular things. But we were blowing through them, and we had to set up a thing where in order to get new drill bits, you had to turn in your old ones. And they thought it was stupid, but it was because they were stuffing their pocket with it or taking them home. So turn in your old ones, I'll give you a new one. So if you break the head off, I don't care, just turn it in. But now Doug found a source on Alibaba, and we got them down to 79 cents a spear bit, and they're great. If you keep them cool and you put some water on it, they are great. As for the regular percussion bits, if you have to get into granite or quartz and you have to drill it that way, then we use the traditional carbide tip bit for that. But those other spear point bits are phenomenal. Do you use hammer drills all the time? No, not all the time at all. They all have hammer drills, but again, I talked earlier about the vibration of things on the walls, the potential of cracking, loose tiles. We do an awful lot of removing old doors and putting places, and those tiles are, lots of times the frame doors are what's keeping the tile on the wall. So I don't want to add any extra vibration. So no, we're not using hammer drills all the time. There's some good questions. Community involvement, Chris, you know, when you pull the plug, I know it gets close to your dinner time.
And I've got a couple more minutes. You're on a roll, man. So, you know, if you go a few minutes over,
I got all these notes.
We'll have to have a part 2, man.
Oh my God, it flew by. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that we did, guerrilla marketing type things. It didn't cost us anything other than joining certain organizations and going there. So the obvious ones, your Chamber of Commerce and your Builders Association. Usually the Builder Association has a remodelers division, which is really good. Love that. Designers, architects, plumbers, tile guys, they all have their organizations. I assign one person to each of those organizations. But then we get really involved with schools. We do a lot of things for schools. We also sponsor a lot of sports teams and put our name on the back and pay for their uniforms. So if you go into a key area, you know, basically a wealthy area that you want to get your name, it's a great piece of target marketing. We join community involvement groups like Make-A-Wish. We had as a company function that we wanted to donate a wish to Make-A-Wish every year. We set up our showrooms for disaster relief donations. So if you have 1 showroom or 10 showrooms, let the community know, and that's free, that, hey, you can drop off your stuff to Shower Showcase and, you know, Santa Barbara, whatever, and we'll donate it to the Red Cross, or we'll get it to where it needs to be. Use our showroom to drop off. We even have our trucks go around and pick up if people can't get there. That goes a long way, because the newspapers and the regular TV, they'll run stories on that, how local businesses are helping in disasters. We get hurricanes through here once or twice a year, and people are losing their homes or losing this. All of our showrooms are set up as disaster reliefs. During COVID, we were taking masks. Anybody that wanted to donate masks, we did that, and then we gave it to the schools and to the old age homes. So those are some of the things that you can do that cost you very, very little. You just can be creative and build your business and your name and the goodwill. All right. Thanks, Chance. Yeah, guerrilla marketing. It's all about guerrilla marketing. That's a good book, by the way, and I learned a lot from it. Tunes. Do professional installers have to come with his tools to work, or do you provide them? No, we provide all the tools. We inventory each truck, and if a tool's missing, that's on the installer, unless it's broken on the job and he returns it to us. But if they lose it, they are responsible for it. If they drive over it and they rip the extension cord out, we'll take care of that. But I just want to stop I want the guys to be responsible with their tools. So if they wear out, I don't care if it's a box cutter or a set of pliers, they need new ones, just turn in the old ones and you get them free of charge. Greg, do you like using U-notches or the single holes when using clips, transom clips, etc. on your manufacturing of your glass? Okay, so on the manufacturing side, we'll make whatever the order is sent into us. We like it all. We charge for notches, we charge for holes. That's on the manufacturing end. When we install it, we give the customer options. Do you want channel? Do you want clips? Do you want clamps? Depending on what they want, there's a price associated to it. Once we calculate the price, doesn't matter what they want. We like doing it all, and we keep them all in stock. So really, it's the look. I mean, I can give you a sales pitch against clips. I can give you a sales pitch for clips. So it depends. Like I said, there's a lot of guys doing great work. We don't all have to do it the same. Everybody in my shower door has to do it the same. But, you know, across the country, I'm sure Billy and Bob and everybody does it differently than us. I see the pictures all the time. That's okay. They're still frameless doors and they still look great. And we're still doing a good service to the industry. Man, I've never seen an hour go by so fast. Ever.
That was awesome, man. You did a great job.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being willing to show
Anytime.
up and do this. And thanks so much for just your regular involvement in the group. I mean, you're one of the most involved guys here, and I know that you've got a lot going on in your life. You're obviously a shower.
Yeah, and I got a very understanding wife. She gets to watch her shows.
It's a very important part. A very important part.
Billy, it's more important than you can ever imagine. There's so many things that are involved, and we try and tie it into business. And fortunately, I got her to learn golf. So if I took trips, we take our clubs. One of the things I didn't say, and this is kind of cool, is as you grow the business, travel is a big deal, getting back and forth. And we had a mentor, and I was going to say this, everybody should have a mentor, somebody that has an eye on your business that's not involved in the business, and they can give you a whole different perspective on things. But the one thing the guy told me is if you're going to grow your business, get your pilot's license and get a plane. So that way, if you got a problem in Orlando, you can be up there quickly. You can stay overnight if you have to, or come back, but never let the travel be a problem. So Doug and I both got our pilot's license, and we got our plane, and we can get to and from places. I see Greg Stoll, if you know Greg in Knoxville, he's an avid pilot as well. It just helps you get around. It just opens up the world to you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Dude, man, I'll bet you could do another hour of just like
easy.
Great.
No, it's my life. It's my life. And I just don't want to bore people. That's the thing. They come on here. I'm hoping that there's something that they can take out. I guess the biggest takeaway, Chris, is on our page. Anybody thinks of questions later, just do it, and I'll just answer them on our regular page. And that'll help everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always open for that. What's funny? It's like I started putting these Facebook Lives on the podcast. Yeah. The people listen to it. I mean, I think that's hilarious because I can see how many people are listening, yeah. And people are. I mean, so there's obviously value here in what we're talking about.
Yep.
And so yeah, I don't think anybody here is bored. I think anybody who from outside the industry, they probably couldn't believe.
I can definitely say not boring. It's kind of the life we all live, and finding little tips and tricks is key to trying to be successful and grow. So definitely not boring.
Yeah, I tell you, social media has been the real push. I mean, I put a ton of money into advertising. Don't get me wrong. We put a lot of money into it, but the social media has opened it up where you can target market, and you can calculate, and you can see what kind of response you get. I mean, there's a lot of tracking, and I saw Chance came on, and boy, he'll be the first one to say it's all about tracking. There's no sense in doing anything if you can't measure the success of it. And it's the same thing in advertising. Other than that, you're just pouring money down the toilet, or it's more of a shotgun approach. You may see your sales go up, but you really need to fine tune where your marketing is doing best for you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Bill. Bill Daubmann.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, I really appreciate your being here. And yeah, like I say, just your continued involvement. And speaking of mentoring, I mean, you're a mentor of mine. You may not know it or not.
I don't know it.
But I'm watching you, man.
I will say it could be worse, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're someone who's gotten in there, been creative, thought outside of the box, innovated, grown, expanded. And I have to tell you, you are such a nice guy, such an approachable person. You make it really easy to, to follow. And that's the thing. It's like about leadership. One thing that people don't really understand about leadership is that you have to let people catch up with you. You ever followed somebody in a car? They think, oh yeah, follow me. I'll lead you to the party. So they jump in the car. They run every yellow light. It's like you can't follow them.
Exactly.
They've forgotten that you're behind them. So in order to be an effective leader, you have to be able to go slow enough so that the people behind you can keep up and see where you're going, and anticipate what your turns are. You're a guy who does that really well. So I just want to congratulate you on that as well.
I try. And Chris, we all can't thank you enough for just hosting this and putting this together so that we can do this. And I look forward. I mean, I love listening to Billy last week, and I hope we have somebody else that can take over next week.
Yeah, well, I'm putting my feelers out, so I have a feeling we'll have a good supply.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.